Hello, Commons Trusted Seed and friends. This is the Blockchain Socialist. You may know me on social media, but I am here to nominate the project that I'm working on called Breadchain. And Breadchain, in case you don't know, is essentially a community of decentralized cooperative projects. So we sort of are a collection of different projects that have shared values and principles. So right now, at the moment, our values are listed in our homepage here. So we have economic democracy, mutual aid, transparent governance, and dual power. So we strive to live with those principles in mind. But the reason that I wanted to nominate Breadchain for the Commons Prize is because I think we have some pretty interesting synergies that can work very well together when it comes to using different parts of the Commons Stack set of tools. And so, especially what I wanted to talk about that we're building at the moment is over here. And if you go to the blog, we talk about our Breadchain Crowdstaking protocol. So this is an application or a protocol really that we're building out that is meant to be sort of the answer to dealing with living in a extractive economic system, while also at the same time wanting to build a new regenerative and commons-based system. And so the way we've done that and the way we want to deal with it is by being able to suck in value from the outside economy and bring it inside a more commons focused economy or a more cooperative focused economy. And that means if we want to do that, we also need to have a currency for our specific type of economy with our shared types of value. And so that is what the crowd staking protocol is meant to be. So I can show you this outline of how the application works. So you can see basically what we've done is we have created a smart contract that when you send DAI to, that DAI gets forwarded into a lending pool. Here it says Compound, but we'll likely be using Aave. But once that happens, the interest that is accrued goes to the smart contract and can be withdrawn to the Breadchain multi-signature wallet to be used for governance and begin to create a treasury. And what we would like to do in the future is sort of create a certain type of governance around that. That's where I think another place where the Commons Stack stack of tools could be really useful. But as well, at the same time, whenever you send your DAI to the compound lending pool, you mint another token in collateral 1-to-1 called the Bread token. And so that goes directly to the user. And you can use that Bread token basically as you would use DAI. So it will be pegged to DAI, which is pegged to $1. And you can always burn that bread in order to receive back the equivalent amount of DAI that you gave in bread. And so what this does effectively is that this creates a passive way to earn interest for the Breadchain cooperative and create sort of like a common pool of resources, while at the same time giving users the autonomy that they need in order to spend something like DAI. So in that way, we can sort of think of bread in two different ways. We can think of it as a local digital currency. So it is local, not in the sense of a geographic location, but in a sort of a location based on vision and principles. And at the same time, you can think of it as a membrane. So it is a membrane around our cooperative economy that is able to suck in resources in order to interface with the larger extractive economy while still trying to build regenerative structures inside of our own. And so this is sort of like the first main application that we're building. We have a lot of different ideas on how to expand on that, and those are things that we can go into more detail maybe at another time. But what I would like to focus on is that it's to take notice of how this works and what this means for the future. So DAI lending is not a particularly lucrative business. You can get interest rates from maybe like 2 to 5% or something like that. And that's nice and fine and all. But what that means is that this is a very slow way of funding projects. But it is a very passive way, and it is a very low risk way of funding these projects. And so the way that we as Breadchain need to sort of expand our reach and our capabilities is by having more people mint bread from their DAI. And that means giving people a reason for why they would use bread to keep it in that form and not switching it back to DAI. Because the longer that you hold it in bread, the more interest that we accrue for the commons. And so one of the things that I think would be really, really interesting when it comes to augmented bonding curves that Common Stack has been working on is I think bread could be a really, really interesting type of reserve asset used for these augmented bonding curves. And in that way, you can sort of double dip your earnings. One, from earnings that you may receive from being part of the Breadchain network, and therefore receiving a portion of the interest accrued from the lending pool, or as well from creating an augmented bonding curve. So when you're creating an augmented bonding curve and you're holding those different resources for the commons, you can earn there as well. While at the same time, no matter the success of the augmented curve implementation, you can still make some amount of money, some amount of value through the crowd staking application through the use of bread as a reserve asset. And so I think one of the things that we would like to look into in the future as well, I think would be interesting, is to have ways to have new projects be able to spin up augmented bonding curves using bread as a reserve asset very, very efficiently and quickly. And so I think that's something that I would love to work with Common Stack to try to build that out and sort of be an enabler for creating all of these different new commons that we can create with the tech stack. Hopefully I'm not going too long, but what we can also do is I can show you the current version of the crowd staking application. It's super, super simple. It's built on top of Polygon, so in that way we have very, very cheap fees. And that way, it's something that you can actually spend on rather than being solely just a store of value, like a speculative asset. But what we see here, we have a really nice user interface that's very, very simple. There's only two assets. There's DAI and there's bread. There's no caret here to choose which token you need. You have the arrow in the middle to switch back and forth like you have in other DeFi protocols, and our balance is showing here. No matter what number I put into the text box here, I will get the same number out because it is always one-to-one collateral. So if I want, I can mint some bread. So let's mint one bread since it's very cheap to do so. I will sign my transaction, and you'll see my balance of DAI go from 4 to 3. If you're using MetaMask, you can click on one of these buttons in order to add those tokens directly to MetaMask, which I think is a really nice user interface. And then here we go. Now I have 202 bread from my 201 before, and I spent, I know usually it's just less than 2 cents in transaction fees. So this is sort of like the MVP of our application, and what we want to do in the future is add a whole lot more to this. We'll add a lot more information to make it easy for people who are not used to using Web3 or crypto applications to make it approachable for them as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to see the Commons Prize nominations.